While humans are considered the main characters of Genshin Impact's story, the world was literally created for them, many other beings occupy Tevar as well. A rather well-known group are the illuminated beasts of liyue, some considered to be on par with the gods themselves that even make up some of the playable characters. In Inazuma, however, we are introduced to a whole group of new supernatural beings, but they are not as revered by the locals compared to liyue. So who exactly are the yokai of Inazuma and how are they different from the Adepti? Before we get into that, if you want to see more Genshin Impact content, do consider subscribing to the channel. The yokai are supernatural beings that have seemingly existed for a very long time. They are likely inspired from the real-life yokai of Japanese mythology. Most yokai in real-life mythology are beings that were conceptualized to sort of explain unknown phenomena and why they are mostly associated with the supernatural. Now for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to cover all the yokai as there's actually quite a few of them in Inazuma. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the three main ones we see in-game, namely the Kitsune, Oni, and Tengu. Let's first start with the Kitsune. Kitsune are typically magical foxes. They are said to have originated from outside of Inazuma and came to Inazuma Islands a long time ago. When they arrived, they fought the Bakedanuki for control over territory, and their war ended with a draw. While the Kitsune appear as foxes, most of them have the ability to shapeshift, and often appear as humanoid with some key differences. Most of them will still retain their fox ears and occasionally their tail while in human form. Their society is made up of clans, and there are several different grades of Kitsune, with Sky Kitsune being the highest, and there are two other grades not really mentioned. The two Kitsune that we know of are Kitsune Saigu, who was Raiden A's friend, and Yaemiko. There are several others, but these two are likely more familiar to you. Aside from shapeshifting, the Kitsune are known to be rather fast and are adept at spellcasting. Because of this, they did often hold roles within the Narukami Shrine, and both the Kitsune we know of did hold the position of head priestesses. The next faction we'll talk about are the Tengu. Most Tengu we see in Genshin Impact appear generally humanoid, but they each have 4 black wings that can be hidden away and always appear with a crow mask on their head. The Tengu are considered to be very powerful and have unmatched speed, even beating out those of the Kitsune. They are known to be renowned swordsmen and archers, and despite their rather slender frame, they are superhumanly strong. Much like the Kitsune, we yet again only know a handful of Tengu that we've actually seen personally. The first is Sasayuri, who was yet another acquaintance of Raiden A, and the second Tengu we know of is Kujosara. Because of their martial prowess, the Tengu seem to gravitate towards a more militaristic role, with both Sasayuri and Kujosara being generals. Finally, we have the Oni, the third faction we'll be covering. In mythology, the Oni are known to be rather evil spirits, but in Genshin Impact, they are a rather proud and honorable group of yokai. They value their own principles and are very prideful in nature, and if you ever need an example of this, just take a look at Arataki Ito. Other than Ito, there are a lot of other Oni, but the only notable one may be yet again one of Raiden A's friends, Mikoshi Chiyo. We don't really know too much about Chiyo and if she held any specific role as part of Raiden A's retinue, but she was said to be an extremely fierce warrior, often fighting alongside A before her downfall. The Oni are said to be made up of several clans, and a long time ago, 2 main clans existed. One were antagonistic to humans, while the others were more tolerant of them. The humans originally feared them because of this, but over time, they did learn to coexist. Oni are considered to be extremely strong, a trait unique to their race, and they have quite scary appearances. But in recent years, they are said to have lost much of their initial appearance due to a dilution of their blood. It's not really mentioned whether this was due to crossbreeding or some other reason, but that's why a lot of the Oni we see today appear slightly more humanoid. So despite the yokai being rather powerful as a group and seemingly having supernatural abilities, why are they not as revered as the Adepti? I think this has to do with how each faction interacts with humans in general. You see, the Adepti have since a long time ago been contracted to defend liyue, but in more peaceful times, they are more reclusive. They are often not known to directly deal with humans, and because of their duty have a sense of separation between their job and the people they protect. It's likely that over time, the people in liyue grew to regard them as legends and moved further from the actual truth. They are adepti like Ganyu and Yanfei, but in more peaceful times, they just appear like any normal secretary or lawyer, and outside of some features, they still appear largely humanoid. The yokai, on the other hand, have always displayed their ability in full, as well as integrated somewhat with the humans. The two main clans of the Oni, for example, actively sought to integrate with humans as a show of good faith in order to gain protection from the Electro Archon. Even today, while some are still secluded, they have had to get along with humans under the expectations of the Electro Archon. While not all the yokai live side by side with humans, the common person in Inazuma is more likely to see Yaimiko or General Kujosara walk around town compared to an average citizen living in liyue seeing an adepti in its full form, like Cloud Retainer for example. Getting used to the yokai likely reduced the chances of legends propping up like what happened to the adepti in liyue. So based on this, the yokai are likely a more common thing to the citizens of Inazuma compared to the adepti with the people of liyue, and why the level of reverence is different between the two nations. One of the main questions related to these supernatural beings are whether they would have a bigger role in the story. When I talk about the story, I don't mean the specific narrative happening within a particular nation. Obviously, with Inazuma, you had the involvement of Yaimiko, who is a Kitsune, as well as Kujosara, who is a Tengu. What I mean is that how will they fit into the overarching story with the Abyss, the Saritsa, and potentially the gods of Celestia? Now we know from the story so far that one of the only ways to manipulate the elements is with the use of a vision. However, we are increasingly led to believe that Celestia might not be the good guys despite their godly status. If a war really is around the corner, imagine if Celestia rescinds the vision it has given out to people, stripping them from their source of power. I think this is where the supernatural beings of each region, possibly alongside their archons, will come into play. Each supernatural group, be it the Adepti, the Yokai, or the Aranara, all have abilities that do not rely or derive from the gods of Celestia or the elemental realm. Yes, they can largely manipulate the same elemental energies, but they also have powers and abilities unique to their races or species. In addition, there has been a lot of effort to show how these two groups, the humans and supernatural beings, can actually coexist together. Perhaps in the far off future, we will rely on each of these factions and their abilities in order to put up some level of resistance against whatever threat may appear. Alternatively, they could just really serve as supporting characters and their abilities being nothing more than a convenient tool. It's too early to say, but still fun to theorize on, and I do hope that they have a larger role in the overarching story. That does it for this video though, and if you enjoyed it, do consider subscribing to the channel, and as usual, have a nice day.